right. This week's Adding Perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
Coach Nrgy.
Aphrodite.
I am Black Egypt, the greatest.
So this week we're gonna jump into it. We're gonna talk about expectations. We're gonna talk about expectations and how that looks from a relationship standpoint. So when we talk about expectations, is it a good and or bad thing to have expectations for the person that you're with, right? Like to have these preconceived expectations. So a lot of times when you think about like expectations and what you expect from somebody else, it's like if I give this person this task, or if I give this person this thing that I want them to do, they do it. If it does not turn out the way that I would like it to be, do I get mad, right? Because I did give it to them, but I expected it to look a certain way, right? So with that example being said, right, like, do you think that it's a good thing or a bad thing to have expectations in a relationship?
With that specific example, then unless you told the person the specifics of how to do what to do, then yeah, if they didn't do it the way that you expected it, then you can't get mad. It wouldn't be, I mean, of course you can, but it wouldn't be wise to get mad at them because you gave them the project, the task to handle, and they have their own way of thinking about how to do it, how to execute. And it may not be the same way that, you would have done it. And so unless you told them, this is exactly how I want you to do it in order to accomplish it this way, in order to get this outcome, then you have to do A, B, C, D in this particular order. And then the results will be whatever you expected. Otherwise, if you didn't give someone like the bullet point of exactly how to do it, then, it may not come out the way that, you may have expected it. So being mad about it, nah, that wouldn't be right, in my opinion.
Huh. Okay. Hey, the only reason why I say because I know there's a few people that would be like, okay, this didn't turn out this way. I'm mad. Okay, I'm mad about this.
Well, yeah, there would be, but you asked, would it be,
Yeah,
right? Or,
I got it.
so yeah, people will get mad, but they shouldn't.
But you also got to think that would be their initial first response, right? Like, what is this? Like, or whatever, because, in their expectation, even though they didn't stress what their expectation was, that's how it turned out. You know how they wanted it, then that's how it turned out. So their first initial response is, what? Like, why would you do that? Because I have done it before. But also, I had to check myself and say, after that, you didn't give a specific detail. You didn't give them a plan, so I can't be mad. And it's a lesson learned. You have to learn in that lesson. Like, if you want something did on a certain task with certain things, then you have to give a plan. You have to give a blueprint. Otherwise, don't be mad if they do it the way they want to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. What you think, Blackie? What you think? Expectations.
Expectations. Is it right to have expectations?
Yeah. Like, do you think that it's fair to have preconceived expectations for somebody for someone in a relationship, right?
So my answer is yes and no.
Okay. Okay. Yes and no. What you got?
So I think there's like realistic expectations, and then there's like your off the wall expectations, right? So for example, like an expectation to show affection, that's general, right?
Mm-hmm.
To show love, to show that you care. Then you have expectations like I want you to have the same dream I have, or have the same wants I want, right? Or
some people do that,
right? But that's not realistic.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just think that you have to decipher, you know, your own individual expectations for someone, because they have to be realistic to be met, right? And also know that, you know, I don't think it's necessarily interchangeable, but also, you know, putting it next to standards also. So, um, yeah, I give you
So,
that for right now.
so what you're saying is, if you give someone a project, they do the project, it does not turn out the way that you would like it to turn out, you're not gonna be mad.
I mean, no, I'm not. I mean, it just depends. I mean, I don't think I'm the right person to ask as far as that, because I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out, right? But yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, the expectation for someone to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to happen. And I think some may you know, want that expectation, or they want that person to be their source of happiness. That's just not going to happen. You have to. That's what I mean by yes and no. I mean, certain small expectations, like, you know, if I give you something and expect you to finish it, then yeah, I expect you to finish it. But I mean, that's all. You know, just certain
Yeah.
things like that. If that makes any type of sense. Does it,
No,
though? I don't know. I mean,
no,
Well,
go ahead.
well, Josh, you gave him two. Those are two different scenarios, though,
Yes,
Josh.
you didn't give
Those
the
are not the
same
same
question.
scenario.
Hey.
The first question the scenario you gave was, you give somebody an assignment, but you didn't give them the plan, and then you got upset because they did not present it the way you expected them to. So that's one thing. It's another thing to when you presented a conversation by being in a relationship and expectations. And that's why, you know, Black Energy answered it the way, I mean, why I call you Black Energy? I don't know
Hey,
why.
I like that.
Hey, you got that
That's
juice,
why
boy.
Black Egypt. Let me get that thing right. We got to call him like he is, baby. That's why Black Egypt answered the way he answered, which is, I agree with him about yes and no with expectations. But even within your expectations of that person that you're dealing with, you have to express them. You cannot expect for a person to automatically know what your expectations are, then get mad at them because, oh my God, you was expecting one thing, but they did another. Like that applies to a relationship too. If you're expecting, because some people are not organically affectionate, right? So some people are not organically affectionate, but you need to express that I have to have that affection for whatever, that feeling might be, so they can know that, because everybody's not organically affectionate towards everybody.
Yeah.
true.
No, you're right. No, you're right about that. But I think in certain situations, especially from a life and or relationship standpoint, sometimes the expectations that you may have for certain people, they don't even know you have these expectations, right? Like they don't even know that these expectations are being put on them, right?
Right. So that's why you have to communicate. That's why I said that it has to be communicated.
Yeah.
Definitely. Absolutely.
But have you ever considered that sometimes, even outside of a relationship format, sometimes I guess people have expectations or certain expectations for the people around them, you know, and like can be family, friends, people that you associate with and stuff like that. And these people, again, they don't know that you got these expectations for these people either. So would you say that you have to communicate, you have to tell them, hey, this is what I expect from you too, or is that just a separate conversation?
It's a separate conversation, but you still, if it's a relationship, period, and in order for your feelings not to be hurt, because I'm telling you, what happens is, because they didn't do what you expected them to do, your feelings hurt. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Your feelings get hurt. You somewhere sad, mad, looking crazy, because they didn't do something you didn't. It's something you expected them to do, correct? So, but they didn't even know. So, therefore, it's a conversation you have to have with them. I have that conversation now because I had to learn my lesson. Like, this is what I expect out of you.
Or just don't have any expectations.
Or just don't have any. That's true. But that's kind of hard though, don't you think, Black Egypt?
I think it's hard, but I mean, it'll kind of help you control your own emotions too. Just like, all right, there again, that's what I was saying about standards and expectations. I know it's kind of different because standard is like, initially before you get into that situation, right? You're trying to figure out who this person is and your particular standards. But I think there's like general, what I was saying, general expectations like affection, right? Like, like love, these are just general, but when you're asking something of someone as far as an expectation, as in like Josh put it, like an assignment, that's just different, It's just, I don't know. For me, it's yes and no, but communication, as what you said, will definitely help. But I don't know, expectation is a tough subject.
It
That's
is.
what I think. It's just, I mean, even if you have the conversation, it still can be a little tough. Right?
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna go with that.
That's
Yeah.
true.
like you, even if you have the conversation, what happens when you have the conversation about what you expect, and the person can't meet it? They can't meet that whatever that. Even if this expectation is a realistic expectation, they can't meet it. Right? They're just not physically able to do it. Then what? Like,
So I'm not like, I'm saying if you're dealing with a person and you have dealt with them for a minute, you should know and understand what they can meet. Like, I guess maybe because I'm a people person, I kind of really study people, so it might be a different, but unless you're not really paying attention, you pretty much know if they can meet their expectation or not, and if they really tried or they just didn't care. That's why I think it is, only because I think that's what I think it is. But it's different for everybody. And I think different expectations is on different people. Like, it's an individual conversation for each relationship.
yeah, it is. What you think, Miss Energy? What you think?
Yeah. What you think, Coach Energy? You're the coach
Yeah,
out here.
yeah.
Let's
What you
teach
think?
us something. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Inquiring minds want to know.
So for me, myself, it's all about having realistic expectations about the expectations that I have for other people.
Okay.
And that's how I manage myself. That's how I manage my responses, my reactions. If someone doesn't do something the way that I expected them to, I manage my feelings about it. Instead of getting mad or getting upset or getting angry, I then check myself and say, okay, what, did I have realistic expectations about the expectations that I had for that person or for this project? So that's pretty much what I do. I check myself on a daily basis with everything that I go through, every single decision, whatever the case is. And then also, to kind of answer your question, Josh, about, well, what happens if a person can't meet, just simply cannot meet it? Then that's when the individual has to decide, well, how important is it? Where on that scale of value is that particular expectation? Where does it lie? What level is it? Something that's like, okay, fine. I can kind of deal with what they can do. I can deal with what level they can achieve, versus no, this is something that I really need because of the expectations that I have going into this situation, going into this project, or going into this relationship. Then there are just certain expectations that I do not, I don't want to have to compromise on. So it just depends, just like Aphrodite was saying, it does depend on every person. And then it also depends on that thing. If a person can or cannot meet it, how important is it to the other person?
Yeah. I think that once people discover that, that person, I mean, from a relationship standpoint, can't meet that expectation, um, then you have to figure out what do you do? Okay. Right. Because I think that Energy, you brought up a valid point when you were talking about like taking that self-analysis every day, right? Like looking into yourself, figuring out, what is your next step, right? So how do you, that's the thing, how do you get to that point as a person once you figure out that obviously that expectation can't be met?
And
Like,
another question would be, even within that, Josh, another question would be, if at that moment you ain't really got that, like that second to really check yourself. Like, you know how sometimes we might have a little safe space to go check ourselves, or it's just that pivotal moment, like right then, and it's like there. Like, what do you do? Because of course, energy is taken into perspective. I'm gonna control myself. I'm gonna control how I react. I'm gonna control what I'm gonna say to this person, even though it probably have bothered her. You know what I'm saying? But like at that pivotal moment, like them actions, them reactions, like people need to know how how to control those reactions at that pivotal moment, at that moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that comes in time with, so the way that I do it, it comes with time. Like I had to get to that point. But a great way of doing it is, for me, what helps is thinking of all of the different possibilities of outcomes. So therefore, it's no longer a shock. It's no longer a surprise, because I've already at least thought about it. The initial thought of, okay, it can either go way left or go way right, and anything in between. So then wherever they fall based on their based off of whatever their results were, then I'm not surprised. And then also with thinking in advance about all these other possible outcomes, I've also thought about, how will I react? How will it make me feel if this happens over here, or if this happens over here? So therefore I can kind of go ahead and, go through those thoughts and, get myself prepared. I don't know if that helps. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's me pre-thinking of the possible outcomes. And then once whatever outcome happens, it's not a surprise to me. So therefore I'm not caught off guard. And in that pivotal moment, it's not just me reacting. It's me, okay, I thought about this. I already figured out how I was going to respond. Here's my response.
Yeah. I mean, that's one way of doing it. It sounds very structured.
So how long does having patience last?
I was waiting on somebody to say.
I'm with you. I am with you.
Like, that's the question, right? Like, how long should you be patient, right?
I mean, but where's the patience in there? Because if you're pre-thinking about it, you've already thought about your response. If it's something that you can deal with, if it's something that you can't, and you've already thought about, okay, if they do the thing that I can't deal with, then this is what I'm going to do. If they do the thing that I can deal with, then this is what I'm going to do. So it's like you're having like that study guide to a test that a teacher is going to give you the next day. It's just being prepared.
Is it that binary though? You know what I mean? Is it that black and white?
It can be, because my motto in life is to keep it simple, keep it black and white. Those two words, black and white, if I show you on my whiteboard, it literally says keep it black and white. Because life can be that simple, we as human beings tend to overcomplicate situations. If we break it down or boil it down to its barest minimum, and take it back to the beginning and go to the original form, the root form, then we start working backwards from there. If we do that backwards analysis type of work, then it becomes second nature, and then issues or whatever, you already know what you're going to do, because that's also going to be a process of you learning yourself, and you learning, well, what triggers do I have? What things, can I put up with? What things can I not put up with? So you learn yourself in that process, and then you learn patience in that process. And then you also learn healthy responses in that process as well. Again, it takes time. It's work that I had to do when I went through my own personal development journey years ago. And it's something that I have to keep up with every day, like renewing that mindset every single day. Because otherwise, if I don't, I'll just be reactive, like, I may
So,
have used to be in the
so,
past.
so what's the end result if they just don't follow the expectations that you have set forth, right? If they're, it's like, I'm just trying to figure it out
Yeah.
because
I mean, so
for
the end result is whatever you want, what you need. What do you need from that person? What do you need from that project? What did you need from that task that you gave them? So you have to be the one to decide that, and then you have to make that decision, because the only thing that you can control is yourself. You can't control the other person. They did a performance, they gave you the results. Now it's up to you to make the decision.
I'm gonna fire them.
There you go. And
I
that's
mean that that's easier said than done in a relationship. Like you gonna walk up to her, you fired, get
That's what
out.
I'm
right.
saying. That's
Like
what
get out of here.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Pack it.
saying.
Like get your
That's
bag, get your
you
clothes,
know
get out.
that's basically what I'm saying. You can't just fire the person you're with. So at that point, do you continually have that conversation? And if that person still doesn't, meet those expectations, when do you decide, okay, all right, it's about that time to cut this off? That's what I meant when I was asking how long does that patience last? But if you're so binary where you're like yes or no, then one mess up, it's like you're done. That's what I was trying to understand. That's what I was trying to
Got
get
it.
to understand.
So understand that with what I was describing is not binary in that sense. It's not like, okay, you messed up, oh well. Because remember, I said the expectations that I have on a person, is it something that I can kind of deal with, or is it something I'm like, okay, that thing, I can't deal with that. There's a whole spectrum of things that aren't just okay, you screwed it up, so goodbye. Even if they screwed it up based off of my expectations, there's still work that can be done. There's still time that can be put into, maybe showing them a different way, showing them an alternative way, or me just saying, well, you know what, fine, that's how they did it, I'm satisfied with it, as long as it's done, I don't care. Because that's part of that 80-20, the 80% of the stuff that you really care about versus the 20% that you don't. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, to me, with that particular line of question that we were just talking about, I'll be quite honest with you. The majority of the people, um, logic is not going to be in the equation. Like it's really not. It's just going to be a response, especially when it comes to that kind of stuff. And to answer your question, like he's like honestly, like your patience wears thin when your mental space wears thin, right?
Mhm.
Like when you start
Yep.
being affected in a way where you can't function daily, like you can't work, you can't sleep, like you're tired all the time, you stressed and stuff like that by this one situation, then that's when change has to come after that. Because like I said, you at a point where your body is telling you that, hey, you need to do something. Like you need to change something about this situation or your life because like I said, it's not healthy for you. It's not good for you. Right. To me, I think that that's when you start figuring out that you need to change something. I mean,
Great perspective, good sir.
but again, that everybody's particular situation, especially from a relationship standpoint, is different. And therefore the stages in the relationship is different. And for me, I'm a big I guess um proponent or whatever for mental health. So that means that if you have the option of seeking like help with your relationship, do it. like don't wait, do it. Like do it as soon as you possibly can, especially if you think that this relationship is valuable to you. Because if you look at it, once you go down that road and make that investment, it has to be of some value to you.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like the expectations thing, we were talking about it and I was thinking about some of the stuff that you guys are saying. I was like, man, like sometimes I guess when you remove the expectations from the equation, it almost feels like you're lowering the standard for that person. right? Like, you know that if you give them this task, or if you give them something to do, or if you expect something from them, and they only give you, you know, 50 to 60% of what you had expected, does that mean that you just lower your standard, right? Like, you lowering your standards for that person, and it's just
I will never.
Because
but
even with
Never.
expectations, like with some expectations, the expectation itself can be, I'll accept whatever this person's best is in these areas or these categories, to where if they don't, well, that, as long as they whatever, then that's enough, to where it's not just okay, well, you may not have.
it froze up on me. Okay, she froze up.
Yeah.
I think she went underwater.
It's okay. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what she was landing with that, but
Her
like I
heli-
said,
her
huh?
plane's still in the sky.
So funny. um, so like I was saying, right? Like the expectation thing is like, it's a very interesting category, because like I said, there's so many things that you can expect from one person in a relationship. Like, it's so many things, and if you don't talk about like at least half of these things, you're gonna be like disappointed, like you are. Um, and you know what's so funny about that is that people always want to talk about, you know, how certain things happen in relationships and stuff like that, and even dating, but people don't talk about
Hmm.
most of this stuff. Like, people don't talk
True.
about it.
I don't think this is the initial thought. You know what I mean? 'Cause I don't think it's like, hey, these are certain expectations. Because again, we normally have expectations of affection, challenges, growth, right? These are normal. But those expectations in particular, it's just it's a it's a different type of conversation. So
Well, what I found out, even when you say growth and all that, sometimes that's not normal to people. I'm not being funny. I'm really serious.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
it's really not normal to them.
you're right. You're
So
right. You're right. You're right.
you really have to put it all out there, because it's really not normal to them. To certain
Good
people, it's
point.
just not.
Hmm. Yeah. But that's kind of what I was saying, is your initial reaction to certain things is your initial reaction, and you know how you're gonna react when it happens. Like, you know it. Like, you know that if this goes this way, I'm going to respond this way. Like, that's the thing.
Mhm.
Like, you already know it. So to me, it's kind of different when, if you are a high performing person, for instance, like if you are a go getter, you one of those people, boom, 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 you like to get your stuff done, and then you assign something to someone where you know that this person is not like you. You know this person is not gonna, execute the way that you execute. My thing about that is, if you know that person is not gonna like execute like you, why do people react like that, right? Like, people like upset when the person don't execute, right? Like the way that they
Well,
like. Go ahead.
but what do you
Well, why
do?
would you give it
Like,
to them?
well, not even
It's,
that. Like,
it's
so,
delegation, but you can't do everything. Like,
well, what about
But
just
you
not
knew
getting
that. So
upset?
why give yourself
What?
that stress? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Black.
No problem. No
I'm
problem. No
sorry.
problem. No problem. I think so. Not even that, right? Not even like, why should I give it to you? Like, maybe you're trying to give it to the person to kind of like use the psychology to push them, right? And you shouldn't get upset. You should just say, hey, this is how they responded. Maybe I should try something else. For example, if I have a certain drive where I read like 10 books a month, right? And this person is just every day sleep, work, go home, right? And I say, hey, let's try something. Read this book with me. Let's read a chapter 5, right? And let's talk about it at the end of the day, see what we learn. And they read the chapter 4 or chapter 3, right? Okay, like you can kind of, it's just certain different scenarios, right? Where you are trying to push them and trying to, you can't teach drive. I mean, but you can
Right.
kind of use them in a way where it's like, they see their own reflection.
So that's where the patience comes in, right?
Yeah,
like that's the part you were talking about, right?
and some people just don't have that drive. They say they want to start a business every day, and it's like, well, okay, it's 6 months from now. How far have you gotten on your idea? And they're like, I think I got a name. Like, what? It's like it's like, because everybody has a different starting point. And
Right.
so you may be the seed, right, to help them grow. So it's just so many different scenarios. I mean, again, it's just, there's no right or wrong. It's just individually based.
Yeah. No, I think you're right too, right? Like I think that, depending on your particular situation, depending on what's being asked, what's being assigned, is it realistic, is it not realistic? It's a bunch of variables, right? Like it's a whole bunch of things. I think the most important part of that particular question is the response, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that to a point, the expectation thing of what you may expect from others, I think it's a precondition thing, right? Like I think that to a certain degree, everybody has this thought about what they might like from other people, right? And they may not label it as expectations, but what they might like from other people or what they want other people to do, right? But I think that a lot of times when we do that, we ultimately, I guess, what some of you guys were saying earlier, like you ultimately disappoint yourself sometimes because you know what you like, you know what you don't like. But when you hand these things off and you don't get your result, their response is ours. Like it's our response.
But what? So what's the conclusion?
Like okay, so with the conclusion of that, you're never gonna not want. Okay, depending on the person, right? Like you're never not gonna. Say for instance, if this was someone that you're with or someone that's closest to you, you're never not gonna want the best for that person, right? Like you're never not gonna want that person to be better. So you always initially gonna want to hand them off something, right? Like you're always gonna want to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
expect something from them. So even with that, you only controlling your response at that point. But if this is somebody like coworker or family or friends or whatever, your response obviously is going to be different. Like it is. That's human nature. It is going to be different.
Mm. So what do you do if someone has a drive and this person doesn't have that same drive? Like how do you, coexist? Or so for me, I revert back to management. Try to focus on the strengths rather than the weaknesses.
Yeah, but
You know what I mean?
you boiling it down to just being like analytical about the situation
Well, I have to be.
and removing your feelings from it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should sometimes.
But then you stop seeing the human part of it because we are human. Like you can be analytical about a situation because it's okay. Look at it. Look at it. What I'm saying about analytical. So analytical is here.
Mm-hmm.
Expressive is here. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, if you're gonna think about analytical side of it, you're not gonna be able to sympathize, right? Like you're not gonna be able to offer empathy if you're just strictly analytical about it.
Not necessarily.
I don't think that's true.
I agree.
I
I
think,
don't agree with
hey,
that.
You can do both. You can be both.
You could be both because I
you
do
can
it
be
consistently.
analytical and expressive at the same time.
I do it consistently. I got certain people I have no expectations of them whatsoever, but I'm still sympathetic with them when it comes down to I can have a little sympathy and all that. But I think I know how about it? I think because I know my boundaries. Like though that's my boundary. How about that? Maybe it's boundaries. How about it? I don't want you to say, oh, Aphrodite, you getting it mixed up. Might just be boundaries.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I just think that that's the thing, right? So when you talk about being analytical and being expressive, and you saying that you can show empathy and compassion means that you can show empathy in all ways. So that means that you're showing empathy, but your body language, your facial expressions, all of this stuff is matching the empathy that you're showing. Because you can be empathetic all day long in words, but a lot of people get that mixed up because they face it says a lot. Right?
Right.
Like
It's a talent. It's a talent. You
that's
gotta
what I'm
be
Yeah, the
saying.
very
face is
talented.
very much a talent.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Now, okay, yeah.
I'm trying to
So.
learn that. Can you teach that class? Can somebody teach me that?
You gotta be very talented. But I think that's a leadership quality though. You know, it's a difficult thing to do, but you could do it.
Yeah,
I've done it.
But it's
Yeah.
hard. It's
But
hard.
it's just remember to be genuine, right? Focus on the intention. Be genuine. Focus on the intention, and try your best.
Yeah.
So that's how you do the face.
Well,
I'm
all of it. You have
learning
to
tonight. So tonight is I'm gonna focus on the. Tell me one more time, because I'm gonna try this. This is going on my to-do list. Like this is going at the top. I'm gonna try this as of tomorrow. So tell me again about the face.
This is level 1. I think you may need like level 5.
Listen, the people need to know your perspective on how to do face.
I'm telling you, you're gonna do a lot of mirror work. Okay, you got to get in front of that mirror. You got to ask. You got to ask yourself some questions that normally your face will respond to. Okay. So that means that you're gonna have to control this, right? Like control this. Now you might need a partner for this, right? So that means that they might have to read the questions to you, right? And then you have to look at your response on your face. Okay. Like I'm just saying. It takes you're gonna have to know how you look when certain when certain things are asked to you, you have to know how you respond to it. But you're not gonna know it by just simply just talking like this. Like you have to look at yourself while answering the question. You know what I'm saying? Therefore, you can know how to meter this, like the response part of it.
So the perspective out of this face thing is you need to be somewhere in a mirror or having somebody else to meter me. I need, because this for y'all know this for me too, right? Hey. So I'm a whoever ever watching this, y'all know y'all ain't in this by yourself. I got
y'all. Hey, I'm just telling you, like if you're a very expressive person and you tend to speak with, like, you know how some people speak with their hands, like they talk with their hands and stuff like that. Or they like to touch people when they talk and stuff like that. Like some people do that. Like they very animated. And that's okay. It's nothing wrong with that at all. But you just have to consider that if your mouth is closed, all of this is still talking. Like your hands, your body, like all of this is still talking. It is saying a lot about you. Like it is. So it's like you have to be very cognitively aware of all of you, like all of this, right? And the only reason why I can say that is that I'm a very animated speaker. Like I am very animated. So you know, like even some of my clients, like my couples, my individuals, they know, like when they say something to me, they know my face. They know exactly when to say, hey, okay, you're right. Okay, I know what you're saying, right? Like I can see your face right now. But that's the thing. Like we all have to know ourselves. I even know that about myself. So it's like we all have to get to that point where you do have to take, like Nrgy was saying, self-actualization. Like really just focusing on who you are so that, you know, you can grow and be, just continue to be better.
Ooh, I got some homework to do. Got you. Understood.
Oh, I don't think we have an expectation for you to meet that goal, but
so you all may not, but in all honesty, y'all should see my face in some Zooms, and y'all should see my face in some meetings. I'd be like, yeah. So no, people need to know, because people don't know, like, you know, if my coworker or my team don't call my face out, then I wouldn't even I wouldn't even know I'm looking like that.
It's natural. I'd say just be you. If it works for you. Just being honest. Because I know people like that. I think it's funny. I just like, okay. Just be you. Just don't even worry about it.
Hey, you okay? You're right, but like I said, I can tell you how, from a relationship standpoint, that is not always the greatest thing. It's not, okay? It's not. Like, my facial expression get me in trouble all the time. So, like I'm saying, like, it's not the best thing sometimes, especially if you're in a committed situation, to to talk with this stuff sometimes, because it can lead to like other other small issues. Like, it can. So that's why it's important for you to kind of know how to navigate, like how to
But
navigate.
sometimes it can be very misleading because not all because your face or your body language is always what you're thinking.
Well,
Because
that
sometimes when people think I'm thinking certain stuff, I'm not thinking that. And I'm like, what? And then in your face, and my face might have said it, but I might be on I probably on something else. I don't even know what they be talking about half of the time. Like, sometimes it's just like that. So sometimes it can be very misleading too. Sometimes it shows you that stop reading into stuff. My thing is just ask. You want to know what I'm thinking? Ask me. Now, if you want the answer, that's gonna be the other question. You want the truth, or you want me to lie to you so your feelings won't be hurt? So
yeah. I was thinking, you're so funny. Something I was actually going to talk about like yesterday was, do people like to hear a pretty lie or the ugly truth?
they like pretty lies. That's just been my experience. I don't know.
I know that's random, but I was just thinking about that yesterday. Like, I was just thinking about that yesterday. Like, which version of that do people like to hear? Like,
That's a good question.
pretty
That's
lie.
gonna be a good perspective conversation.
It is. Okay. um. So, Miss Nrgy down here. I know we left you off.
The weather every time.
Couple
Every
steps
time.
back, stuff like that. So, I'm not sure if you wanted to finish your point.
I don't even remember what I was saying. I'll just kind of jump in where
Okay.
but Black Egypt, like, to help. So there's just a few things that, us as individuals that we have to have like down within ourselves. We have to have it already resolved within ourselves, um, in order to answer, the question that you had, which is a very valid question. Like, okay, but what if? Like, what's the next step? What's the conclusion? What do you do in that situation when, the expectation isn't being met? And the first and foremost thing, Josh hit on it as well, is self. Like, you just have to know you first. Like, you have to know yourself inside and out. You have to know what you can accept, what you won't accept. You have to know to what level you can accept these things and to what level you are willing to not accept these things. That goes back also to one of our earlier episodes. For anyone who's watching, be sure to look at all the previous episodes as well, when we were talking about non-negotiables. When you're in a relationship, having your non-negotiables already predetermined will also help whenever you're in that situation with someone, with a partner. And as you're kind of going through this process of dating them and getting to know them and seeing if it's going to go further, if they're not meeting your expectations, are those expectations within your non-negotiables, or is that expectation that they did not meet outside of your non-negotiable, where you're willing to give a little bit, where you're willing to compromise, or where it's not, where you're like, okay, that's not that important to me? So knowing yourself, knowing what your non-negotiables are, is one of the biggest first steps that you can take in order to really go through this phase that we were describing, or that we've talked about today, and knowing how to react, what to do in certain situations whenever someone else is not meeting your expectation. Also, how to build your patience, because knowing your non-negotiables, those things that are most valuable to you, if it's valuable to you, then you'll know where your patience level lies. If it's something that's not valuable to you, then you know that you're going to have way more patience for that thing. And that's also going to help you when you're in the moment, the way that Aphrodite was describing about when you're in the moment, what do you do when you have that 1 second to respond or to react? So you have to do the self work first before anything else, because otherwise you're just going to you're going to be in a situation where you're figuring it out as you go, and that's where it gets more emotional, or that's where it gets more rocky, or that's where it gets more frustrating, because the pre-work was not done prior. So hopefully that helps.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
It makes plenty
So
of sense. So let me ask you this. So what happens when, if it's a new thing that it has been done and you realize that's a non-negotiable for you?
Then if that's
Like, you have your valuable non-negotiables, right? You might have your list, but this is something new.
mhm. Then so we're always constantly learning and growing, and learning ourselves. We change, with every
Right.
decade we are new people, so non-negotiables will change, and that happens. And so if it's a new thing that you're like, whoa, this wasn't an issue for me before, but this is something now that I realize is way more important than what I thought it was, then
Right.
that's when you go through that work. Sometimes you may have to pull yourself away. Sometimes you may have to take, some of that self-care time, go into solitude for a little bit and say, okay, how important is this to me? Okay, now what do I need to do from here? Still, you know yourself enough to know that, okay, I'm seeing a change within myself. I'm seeing a change within my mindset. I'm seeing a change within my expectations or my goals, my values, my dreams. And so you have to adjust accordingly. And so if your partner did something new, and it's new because you didn't know about it being so important to you, which means you did not set the proper expectation for them, then the proper thing to do, in my opinion, is to be patient with them, discuss with them, hey, that thing you did, yeah, it didn't sit well with me. And you want to communicate with them about what's going on. So therefore, they now are aware of it, and hopefully they won't do it again. And then now you can, start solidifying it as now a new non-negotiable, or something that's now valuable to you.
Good. That's a good answer. I
Yeah.
like
mhm.
that.
It's seems like a lot of work. It seems like relationships is a lot of work. That's what I got from all of that.
No, you do the pre-work. The work is for you. The work is on
Oh
yourself.
my
The
god.
relationship, it is secondary. The work is self-work first. That's the hardest part. If you can
that's
get
that's
yourself
tough.
down, you're good.
That's tough. That's you know. Whew,
Look, now you
yeah.
got to have a
That's,
positive outlook too.
yeah.
This
No,
guy,
I'm
this,
discouraged. Okay, I am demoralized. Thank
this guy, man, it's tough right now.
Golly. Whew. I wiped the sweat off her face. God,
Seems like a lot of effort. It seems like a lot of effort down there.
hey, full-time job. God. Yeah, I got too much going on for all that. Wait a minute.
Oh my
Oh my
Whew.
gosh.
We should do that versus being single.
Single for 200, please. No, I'm just
oh
playing.
my gosh, that's
But that's
funny.
where, see, that right there tells you
Uh,
where your values lie. And
Right.
for
It
some
does.
people, relationships are very valuable. For other people, it's like, yeah, I ain't trying to do all that. I'm good. And that's okay.
yeah, I mean that's why they created Tinder.
There you
Oh,
go.
I
golly.
mean, what?
Oh, man. It's funny. It's funny,
what?
man, because I really don't know me.
What?
I don't know me. Woo! I'll be like, what? What? That's the Jeopardy question. Demetrius,
This,
how much patience will you have? Ooh,
this,
mm-mm. This is a tough game.
hey, just saying, yeah, there's plenty of getting to know people websites out there now. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's just a lot of work.
it's not the it's not
I
that.
mean, because it is. It's getting to know someone takes time. Then you have the expectation, non-negotiables. It's like, how many failed relationships do you have to have? Like it's tough, man.
I mean, it's you said it yourself. Relationship is a two-way street. Like it's not single. Like there's no way that one person can hold a relationship. It's not feasible. Like it's not.
That's
If you
true.
don't have two people that are equally committed to making a relationship work, I mean,
It's not gonna work.
you just punch in a bag. Like you just punch it like this. You just punch it. It's not gonna work. It's
Right.
not. I mean, relationships. I mean, you know, relationships in itself, depending on who you with. I mean, typically are not that difficult. Like it's not. But the thing that makes relationships difficult is, I think, that excuse where people say that, you know, I'm not a great communicator. Like I hate that. Like I hate when people say, "Hey, I'm not a great communicator," or "I don't like to talk about my feelings." All it,
So why do you hate it so much? Because they don't. Some people honestly don't like talking about their feelings.
I understand it, but why be in a relationship then, right? Because a relationship is feeling. It is emotion. It is, yeah, it is caring. Like it's all of that rolled up into a nice little ball. Like all of that.
So do you think people start off saying they don't like talking about their feelings? Or that happens throughout the relationship when things happen?
No, I think that throughout time, depending on which type of relationships people have been in, certain patterns and routines have been built up, depending on depending on who they've been with, right? So a lot of people,
how they grow up.
Okay, but think about it though. A lot of times, people, some individuals fold within themselves because of certain things that happen. Yeah, you're right. Like throughout their life, right? So as they get into relationships and they experience some of these same particular issues, their defense mechanism is to shut down and to not talk about certain things or not talk about certain feelings because certain people feel like they're not going to be understood, like they're not being heard.
Right.
But and a lot of times, from a relationship standpoint, that's detrimental because that's only causing a bigger hole in your relationship and furthering the connection between you and your partner.
I'm giving out a lot of gems right now.
Drop them.
I think this shit costs money. Hold on.
Look, we need to put energy. Old Coach Energy up there to drop some more.
You know,
Josh was on a roll. Like
he was.
For that reason, avoidance also. Not just because, you know, some people, they may not be heard, but other people, they don't want to talk about it because they're trying to avoid it because they know it's not going to make them, you know, it's not going to put them in like the best light. And so they don't want to talk about it. So their new person doesn't have to find that ugly thing out about them. So that's another reason.
Yeah. Hey, I have this term. It's called emotionally naked. Emotionally naked. People are scared to go there. Okay, especially from a relationship standpoint, because it's the most vulnerable place you can go emotionally in a relationship. It is. It's second to being physically naked with your partner. It's second to that. Because there's a lot of insecurities that come along with that part. But you think about, you know, having to express to your partner something that scares you to say, right? Like that scares you and gives you anxiety to say to yourself. If you think about saying that to someone else, that's the most vulnerable place you can be in because you don't even know what that person's gonna say back to you.
Right.
Like you don't even know what that person's how their face gonna look, how they respond. Like that's the other thing about facial expressions, right? Like if somebody's being vulnerable with you, they may be crying, they may be very emotional. Like you need to stonewall that. Like your face need to be tight. like your face need to be tight. Like your hands need to be like clenched up. Like that needs to be the standpoint where you can't even cry in that moment because if anything is off about that moment for that person that you say, they jacked up. Like that is completely messed them up.
Yep.
Like it ain't. Most people don't know that. Most people don't know that. That's why most people don't get that far. Like that's why most people don't get that far. Like, and I mean far by like being emotionally naked, like really expressing how they really feel, because that is a deep fear about doing that with a person that you don't even know is gonna like really be there in that moment with you. Like that's scary. Like it is.
Shout out to the lovers. Shout out to the lovers. You know.
Yeah,
that's dope.
Yeah, this is what the hearts are gonna go by the video and the, like.
Yeah. Shout out to the lovers, y'all.
Little
So,
bell
you know.
ding. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. So honestly, this is a great point to start, like wrap this up, right? So hopefully, you know, everybody got a lot out of this particular perspective. So please, you know, add to this perspective, like, comment, all that great jazz. Again, adding perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
Coach Nrgy.
Aphrodite.
Black energy.
Oh, he being sarcastic. Drop it. Oh, that's what we're doing today.
That's a dope name. That is a dope